It was just supposed to be another routine hospital visit for my mom. She had been in a wheelchair for 10 years, and we had been going to the hospital for checkups and rehab all that time. I was used to waiting in the lobby while she went through her exams, but today was different. A doctor I didn't recognize approached me. She looked worried, her face serious as she grabbed my arm. "Could I speak to you for a minute?" "It's about your mom," she said, pulling me aside. Her words felt strange, and my heart skipped a beat. Why was she so concerned? I pulled my arm away gently. "I'll hear about Mom from her primary doctor," I said, trying to stay calm. My mom's regular doctor was Dr. Thomas, and I had been seeing him for years. So why was this new doctor stepping in? The woman in front of me was unfamiliar. She wasn't Dr. Thomas, and I hadn't been informed of any changes. "Is something wrong?" I asked, already feeling the weight of suspicion creeping up. She paused, her expression darkening. "It's something serious. You need to know, but you can't tell anyone else, not even her primary doctor." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I could feel the air in the room getting heavier. What was she talking about? Why couldn't I tell anyone? I had been taking care of my mom for years, and I trusted Dr. Thomas completely. But now, this doctor was telling me that there was something I needed to know, something hidden from everyone else. I was confused, but I couldn't back down. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. She looked around, almost as if making sure no one could hear us, before she spoke again. "Your mom's condition isn't what you think," Dr. Arya said, her voice low and serious. "She's pretending to be disabled." I froze. The words didn't make sense. Mom had been in a wheelchair for 10 years. She couldn't walk, not since the accident. I had always been by her side, helping her with everything. How could she be pretending? The thought was too much to handle. I looked at Dr. Arya, trying to figure out if she was serious. Her face was grave, and her eyes never left mine. "She can walk, Madison. She's been walking for years." I couldn't breathe. Everything I thought I knew was suddenly in question. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of what Dr. Arya had said. If Mom had been walking this whole time, then what was all this? Why had she made me believe she couldn't walk? Why had I spent the last decade caring for her as if she needed me? It didn't make sense. I felt betrayed, confused, and angry all at once. My thoughts swirled as I struggled to understand the truth. How had Mom kept this from me? Dr. Arya continued, her voice calm but firm. "She's been manipulating you, Madison. She made you think she couldn't walk to keep you close, to make sure you would always be there for her. You've been trapped in her lie all these years." I could feel the weight of her words pressing down on me. My whole life, I had been raised by my mom, believing that everything she told me was true. But now, it seemed like everything had been a lie. How could she do this to me? How could she make me live this way for so long? I didn't know what to say. I felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. Everything I had done, every sacrifice I had made, now seemed pointless. My life had been consumed by caring for Mom. I had put everything on hold, my career, my relationships, my freedom, just to take care of her. And for what? So she could pretend to be sick? The anger and disbelief grew inside me. I had to confront her. I had to know the truth. But where did I even begin? When I returned home later that day, I was shaken. I couldn't stop thinking about what Dr. Arya had said. As I began packing my things, I realized just how deeply I had been trapped by my mom's lies. She had always been so dependent on me, so convinced that I would never leave her. But the truth was, I couldn't stay. Not like this. I needed to break free, even if it meant leaving my mom behind. As I packed my things, I felt a sense of guilt and relief mixed together. Could I really just leave her? Was I making the right choice? The phone calls from Mom started coming in, one after another. I ignored them at first, not knowing what to say. The truth was still too fresh, too painful. When I finally answered, her voice was frantic. "Madison, where are you? Why didn't you answer me?" she demanded, her tone filled with panic. I could feel her fear, but I couldn't let that change my decision. I had to leave. "I'm leaving, Mom," I said, my voice firm. "I can't live with you anymore. I've made my decision." Mom's response was immediate. "What do you mean? You can't leave me. You're all I have." Her voice broke with desperation. I could hear her sobbing through the phone. But I stood firm. This was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but I knew it was the right thing. I can't keep living this way. I need to move on with my life. I can't keep sacrificing everything for you. I waited for her to respond, but there was only silence on the other end. It felt like time had stopped. I could hear her breathing, but nothing else. Finally, she spoke, but her words weren't what I expected. "You don't understand, Madison. I can walk. I've been able to walk for years. But I couldn't tell you because I knew you would leave me. I didn't want to be alone." Her confession was like a punch to the gut. All these years, I had believed she needed me, that she couldn't survive without me. But it was all a lie. Mom had been lying to me, holding me hostage with her manipulation. I was filled with anger, sadness, and disbelief. How could she do this to me? The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I couldn't believe how much time I had wasted. My whole life had been spent taking care of her, putting my dreams and aspirations on hold. I could have had a career, relationships, and a life of my own. But instead, I had been trapped in her web of lies. The truth was finally out, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. I had to break free. The past 10 years had been a lie, and now I had to face the consequences of everything that had happened. As if things weren't complicated enough, I learned that Dr. Thomas, the doctor who had been overseeing Mom's care for all these years, was also involved in the deception. He had been forging documents to help Mom appear more disabled than she really was. I couldn't believe it. My trust in him, in everyone, had been shattered. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Dr. Thomas tried to blame me. He said I had coerced him into writing the fake documents for financial gain. I was horrified. I knew I had done nothing wrong, but how could I prove it? Just when I thought the situation couldn't get any more twisted, my father, who I hadn't seen in years, showed up. He was the hospital director, and it turned out he had been trying to expose Dr. Thomas all along. He had no idea about Mom's lies either, but when he learned the truth, he stepped in to help. My father, the man I had been separated from for so long, was the key to unraveling everything. He confronted Dr. Thomas, demanding that he be held accountable for his actions. I couldn't believe it, but at the same time, I felt a sense of relief. With my father's help, Dr. Thomas was exposed for his role in the fraud, and the hospital began an investigation. He was arrested, and his medical license was revoked. But the battle wasn't over for me. I had to face the truth about my mom. Everything she had told me about my father, about our life, had been a lie. She had kept me from him, keeping me in the dark for my entire life. I had to come to terms with the fact that my whole world had been built on lies. I could never go back to the way things were. After all the drama and pain, I knew I had to move forward. I had to rebuild my life, free from the lies that had defined my past. I began to reconnect with my father, and we started to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy, but we were both trying. I also began to take control of my own life again, focusing on my career and my own happiness. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a future ahead of me. I was no longer trapped by the lies of my past, and I was determined to make the most of my newfound freedom.